Broadcasting live from global headquarters at RP Enterprises in Greenwood, Missouri.
Stand by on this frequency.
After 22 years of entertaining FM radio listeners across the U.S., this man is the owner and executive producer of the award-winning Heartland Waterfowl on Sportsman's Channel, CEO and founder of Dumar Chemical Solutions, and the man behind the mic of Papa Ron Radio voiceovers and production. He's the man, the myth, the legend, a global icon, future Nobel Prize winner, and of course he paid me to say all this.
Really?
Literally. Welcome to the Papa Ron Podcast. Here's your host, Ronnie Phillips.
All right, it's great to have the band back together again. Episode 29 of the Papa Ron Podcast. How are you, Jillian?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. About ready to wrap up the hunting season, which means then hopefully we can do this on a more regular basis.
I know.
We got some great guests in the future that are going to be coming on, so excited to have that. Probably about another month. I would say after mid-February, things will start opening up a little bit more to where we can do this a little bit more regularly.
Good.
Really excited about today's guest, and I always open up that show with really excited about today's guest. I've never opened up a show with him. I'm not really excited about today's guest, but we're going to have one. We're going to have him in anyway. This is the first time, and I say this tongue in cheek, is the first time we've ever had a zombie on the Papa Ron Podcast, which is pretty cool. Or once was a zombie.
I like the term walking miracle better.
There you go.
Doesn't that sound a little more positive?
Welcome to episode 29 of the Papa Ron Podcast from Shamrock Roofing, Garen Armstrong. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
I hope you have a sense of humor. Because
Yes.
I just called you a zombie.
I've been called all sorts of different things.
Is there a lot of jokes that come along with your story?
Iron Man, everything.
You bet.
Oh, yeah.
The Robo Roofer.
Robo Roofer. Okay, so let's just kind of dive into it and give everybody a Cliff Notes version of your story. But then before we dive too deep into that, I want to just kind of get a feel for who you are. The story, as I understand it, is you are the man who lived 3 years without a functioning heart, like a real functioning heart.
That's correct. I lived 3 years without a heartbeat, any pulse, nothing.
So like if a nurse came and did the old, fingers on the wrist, they would have nothing.
Nothing.
You would be flatlined. That's just unbelievable. So here's the thing is that I've told people in my circle that there's this guy who's coming into the show and apparently he lived 3 years without a functioning, and they're like, what?
That's what I said when somebody when I overheard Terry, the car Santa from Cars for Heroes, telling someone else.
Okay.
And I was like, this has to be a joke. And I was sitting back and he wasn't talking to me. So I was just listening and I was like waiting for a punchline. And I was like, is he trying to make a joke like he's heartless? Because Garen's not heartless. Like he's not even like cold or like you would make a joke like that. And then he keeps talking and I'm like, wait a second, what? How have I not known this all this time?
Sure.
Yeah. Crazy.
So you had I think I saw in a video, you called it a portal or AKA a pump, right?
So it's called an LVAD, left ventricle assisted device. It's a pump that sews on to the bottom of your heart. And basically what happened was I got a sinus infection that went to my heart, cardiomyopathy. Within 45 days, immediately your heart wants to heal itself, but it swelled so much, the elasticity of it couldn't pump anymore. So you had to go in, cut the apex of your heart off, sew this pump on. And I was the first HeartMate 3 in Kansas City. And so they wanted to film it for research for all these other hospitals.
You were the guinea pig.
I was the guinea pig.
Oh my god.
So you had this pump basically that you wore on the outside of your body that had a wire of sorts that would then go through the skin to the heart. And I think I saw in the video where the batteries for that only lasted 10 hours and you had to be on top of your stuff because you don't change out those batteries, you're going to die.
Right. They've gone bad and they've gone out before on me, and it's very scary. Very, very PTSD, being around water, not being able to be on water, things like that.
Wow. Okay, so we're gonna get into
that's just
all,
a part. That's just a part of what
that's
we're
just
here
a
today,
sliver of your story. But let's back up and get to know you a little bit better. You are obviously among many known as a very successful businessman, been an entrepreneur most of your life. Kind of tell us who you are, where you grew up, and kind of the back history of Garen before all of the trauma.
So I grew up in Kansas City, Kansas, and been in Kansas City all my life. Been an entrepreneur all my life.
What is it? So like since college, or you were an entrepreneur before in high school?
In high school, I was the one selling in middle school, selling sweets and snacks and everything.
Okay, okay.
So it's cutting yards always all my life. So
and that's something you kind of that you got from your dad, or
working with my dad, doing everything under the sun, construction wise, learning from him. So he taught me the hands-on stuff. My mom's kind of probably the entrepreneurial side of things, but yeah. But he was the hard worker of that, and I learned so many trades from him. But but growing up, learning that, and doing that, I was like, man, that's a lot of hard work. I don't mind hard work, but let me, I got into sales. Doing sales and car sales, then F&I, and then got into mortgages, and then selling the mortgages, and then after that, I created a software that that was using for the mortgage company before like Salesforce was out. Before then we was creating a software for reservation systems that we ended up had some big contracts with like Micros, but that ended up selling to the Department of Defense.
Wow,
which
that's kind of a big deal.
Which it sounds like a big deal, but it wasn't a home run. It was more like I beat out a bunt, and because they just passed that sequestration and took a lot of the money away from the military. But a lot of people don't know that the military has a lot of properties all over the globe, and so this reservation system that we created now runs those properties.
So were you always, you talked about building the software. So now I'm envisioning you selling cars and doing some of these other things, but you obviously got to be somewhat of a computer geek to be able to build software, or did you just have an idea and surround yourself with other?
So I architected it, and I brought on, I don't code. Call me like a gemologist. I'm in the diamond business, but I'm not a gemologist.
Gotcha.
I can architect it and say, hey, this is what we want to do. This is how we want it to do it. And
you're the idea guy.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And so, in fact, so then to back it up, after we sold that, I was like, I'm done with software. I don't want to deal with software, and so that time is, I was doing some consulting for other roofing companies because I grew up with my dad, doing that. And then my dad passed away, and my mom said, Garen, what do you want to do with this? And I said, I'm going to take it to the moon. And so I took it over around late 2016 and still grieving. So we'll say the beginning of 2017.
Okay.
And then from 2017 until now, we grew Shamrock to, it will be around the 55th top roofing company in the country.
Wow.
And there's some billion-dollar companies we're competing against. So, where we're at now is, we did 37 million last year. So in that amount of time frame, that's how fast we grew. And it's God's favor on me, and it's an example. I got to go speak in front of 10,000 people and share this story. Not just because I did all that while I was on a heart pump, while I was in the hospital. And it's not a testament to me or how great I was. It's a testament to the team and what was going on. Because when I first got this heart failure, a lot of the people on the team, they didn't know what to do absent a leader, or a leader being sick about, don't know if he's going to die, don't know what's going to happen. A lot of the people leave because they don't know what's going on. And then there was some people that stepped up, and the people that stepped up really took ownership, locked arms, and they said, you know what, we got this, Garen, we got your back. We believe in you. And so they were there, they kept running it. And so I was there in the hospital. I knew what was going on. I had my laptop. I was able to do things. So I was able to answer the questions. I was able to sign the checks. I was able to do these things to for it to keep going. And then when I got home, it took a while healing from that.
Sure.
But once I got back, I dug in there, and then I was out in the trenches with the guys going on appointments, and they said, "Hey, if Garen's can do this, so can I." And so that's just kind of how I lived, and just kept doing it. When all that happened, I just lost my dad, and that happened in 2008. So it was just, and I just started in 2017. This is really when I'm ramping it up. I thought everything was lost. I thought, here's my health. God. I've always been a strong Christian. But more of sit in the back pew type guy. But always let my light shine, teach my kids. All these things. But then this time I was like, wow, really what's left is really dark time. I'm dying. Like, I didn't have a succession plan. I didn't have anything lined up for the kids. I didn't have any of this ready to go. So this forced me to face death instantly. Mm-hmm. And, when I went into the hospital with drove myself to the heart hospital, it was immediate code blue. And they code blued me, and they was into the hospital and checking everything, pathways to see what was going on. And they kept me, and they said, we need to run some tests. And the only way we can save you is by putting this HeartMate 3 on you. And
what hospital did you go to?
KU.
Okay.
And they saved my life. The heart program.
And you were the first that they ever administered that to. Do you know however many people in the country that needed that? Where did you fall in line of that?
Well, so,
you were the first in Kansas City, but you weren't the first in the country.
I wasn't the first in the country with a HeartMate 3.
Okay.
I was maybe in the top 10. But
wow, really?
Because KU is one of the top 10 in terms of heart programming using the LVAD to keep people. It's a bridge to life or bridge to wherever.
So did you go to KU because of that, or you went in an emergent situation? Like, did you just happen to be close to KU, or
I went to an emergent situation?
but I mean, you were just close by,
yes.
And that's just happened to be what was close.
I was at work. I was on a roof, and I'm getting down off the ladder, and then they're like, "Hey, Garen, I about fell off the ladder getting down, and I got dizzy on the way to the hospital." And then when I got to the hospital, they said it was code blue. Oh. So it just happened so fast.
And that was in 2008?
18.
Oh, 18. Okay, I thought I heard you say 2008. Sorry. Okay, I'm just trying to do the timeline. So this was after your dad passed away.
Yes.
Right. And after you took over the company. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
I have so many questions. Oh my gosh. Okay, so we're definitely obviously going to get into the meat of the story, which is the heart issue. But I am being an aspiring, I hate even throwing around the term. The term entrepreneur, I feel like, is just thrown around very loosely these days. And I don't want to say I'm an entrepreneur until I've actually maybe I'm being too hard on myself. I don't know. Anyway, I digress. As an aspiring entrepreneur, I'm interested in your story as to did you go to college?
I did go to college and got, all the hours from here and there, but didn't get my degree because I was already working at that point and making money. And so
but you grew up seeing a family business grow and be successful, right? Your dad owned Shamrock Roofing, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So did you have any aspirations at a young age to go to work for him? Because it sounded like you went and you're in the real estate, mortgage, car selling business, building software. Why didn't you jump right into working for him?
Because it was more retail, it was more of a, they wasn't just roofing, by the way. It was everything. He would go build decks. Okay. He would go build, roofing. It was electrical. It was insulation. It would be anything. He'd be doing work with my uncles, things like that. So, it wasn't, the size of the company that it is now. It was pretty much something, a corporation for him to run stuff through. He was an engineer for 36 years, and then started this and was doing side construction. Would you say? We'll call it that way.
Okay. So what was the growth from him taking it to now? Like
it would be zero because it was there. Everything was set up, but he had cancer. Okay. So he wasn't. It was nothing was going on.
There's no profitability.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
Wow. And so, being that you dabbled in so many other things and was quite successful at it, of these other things, Was there a intimidation to take over something? I mean, because you're kind of starting over, right? It sounds like you were at zero, you said.
Right.
So what made you decide that like this, was it the emotional side of it?
It was the emotional side of it. It was the part of my dad that I wanted to be able to help. It's like, could I have done more? You always ask these questions. He and I were friends. We were like best friends. And so when, we'd hang out and, work on classic cars and do everything together, and so losing him was really, really tough. And so that passion, that kind of, hey, I'm going to keep this going in honor of him. And the whole Roofs for Veterans, that's when we spun that off from Cars for Heroes.
Oh yeah.
Because I've been with Terry for 22 years now.
So that's how this all came together. That was another question. Okay.
Yeah. So
thanks, Terry.
Yeah. So Terry.
Terry's been on the Papa Ron podcast.
Yeah, and so Terry's been a mentor of mine, and for the very beginning when I first started selling cars, that's how I met Terry.
Okay.
And so, and that's when the finance happened, and then the software, and so that's how that all transpired.
So the idea of leaving all of these things that you know a lot about because you've worked in it, you've got the experience, to take over Shamrock Roofing was to honor your dad. It kind of keep his memory alive.
Yes.
To do that. But how much did you know about that industry?
So and after I sold the software to the Department of Defense, then I said, what am I going to do? Right. You just like, what am I going to do? I spent a lot of time just like searching, like I didn't want to get back into the software business. I want to do something different.
Right.
I had a bunch of other friends that was in the roofing business, that was, I could do my dad's thing, but I kind of did. I just waited. I did a lot of prayer. I did a lot of, what's my purpose? What am I doing? Just trying to find myself at that point. And then I didn't want to go work for my dad. And so what I did,
why?
I wanted to, I didn't want any favors. I didn't want anything.
You didn't want any handouts.
I didn't want any handouts. I didn't want to go work for my friends that had roofing companies. So I went and called out of Craigslist a roofing company. They were out of Texas. They were here, and there's no favors. There's hardly any infrastructure. But I was learning what the difference was. I'm like, why are some people coming into the supply house in these old beat up trucks, always having to go to see the F&I guy, the manager, and then some guys driving by in these big jacked up brand new trucks, and they're smiling and they never have to see the F&I manager. So I asked the manager, what's going on with this? And he says, well, see that guy? That's a retail roofer over there. See this other guy that's happy? He's working storm damage roofing. So I said, okay. So I started learning different angles and different ways of the business by not being in the family business, by being able to step out of that comfort zone to learn it. Then I was able to learn that way. And then from that, then I took my knowledge and went and helped consult another company here. And that was the same time as my dad passed away. And my mom said, what do you want to do with this? And then at that point I said, I just learned this, insurance side of business. I knew the retail side of business and repair and all that. And so then it was let's focus on the most profitable side of business. And then let's start scaling teams. And so that's what we did. And then once we got our systems and processes in place, here in headquarters in Kansas City, then that's when we started creating the hub and spoke environment. So we went up north, we went up to Omaha, then Lincoln, then Des Moines, then St. Louis, then Bentonville, Tulsa. And so
Tornado Alley, baby.
Yeah, we're blessed to live in the Midwest. So, and when you try to sell a retail roof to somebody, they say, well, I'll just wait till the next hailstorm. And so, and so that's kind of how that happens most often. And so, blessed to live in the Midwest, and kind of a lot of people ask me, like, what's next, Garen? How much do you want to grow it? And right now, I don't have any partners. And so we've grown it all ourselves. And so it's the Shamrock family, and the focus is to dominate the Midwest. And that's just where I want to go. There's a lot of it's a very hot space in terms of private equity. A lot of private equity group, a lot of roll up in the industry, like it used to be for plumbing and electrical. Like they did all that. Now they're doing that in the roofing solar space. And so I spend my days now with bankers and private equity firms, and while at the same time growing marketing strategies and really following what God wants me to do first, because the first thing is I'm alive and I'm here from dying. And so the message is that, I got all these opportunities that opened up from this experience, being able to be a chairman at the Centennial for the American Heart Association. That is something that is so awesome.
Sure.
And so, from this experience in my heart, and being a survivor, been through 6 open heart surgeries in 5 years.
Unreal.
So it's given me a voice from a different direction, so that when I'm able to go talk to the American Heart Association, then I can show them where their money is going to. I can tell them, hey, from the last 5 years, they used to have to go down my neck and the jugular vein to get biopsies nonstop. Now they're able to with the research, they're able to do blood draws and see if I'm rejecting or not. And so there's just different stories like that from a perspective that a lot of the people that donate to the American Heart Association, they don't get to see. Like, we get to see the instant gratification by giving a car away with Cars for Heroes,
right?
And the smile on their faces, and you see the kids so happy, and it just gives me goosebumps thinking about it. And it's just such a joy to experience that. And so, but with that, we're trying to grow Cars for Heroes, right? Mm-hmm. But it's one-on-one with the American Heart Association. We can help more people because it's a bigger pool of money for more research, and they give money to KU, to St. Luke's for different research that they do. So it's that's why I try to compare the two. One is working with a small, nonprofit that's, still, I say small, it's sure getting out there, isn't it? We're giving 365 roofs, cars away to veterans and first responders. Yeah. But to compare the two. So it's just been a real blessing to be able to do that. So that's been the calling on my heart is it's like I got this gift of life. And, when I was in ICU waiting for the heart transplant because I had an infection that got in there, and so I was literally dying. And when I got that call, the first thing I did was I started crying, and I started praying for the family who donated, who passed
lost
away.
someone, yeah.
And so it's very, very emotional, and so there's nothing that can prepare you to have your heart ripped out of your chest and a new heart put in there. In the meantime, you have 3 years of waiting about this, 3 years of wondering, what happens when I get that call, who's the heart from, go write a letter to their parents. Will they want to meet me? Because I want to meet them and let them know that I'm doing positive things with this heart. And I think that's another thing that is the driving force. Is God. It's God saying, whether I want to or not, it's like, get out there. It's an obligation. I want to naturally, but it's also like, you've got this gift and that comes with responsibility and you need to keep on giving. And so that's what I'm doing, because, if the way I look at it, my days were done. This is an extension. I feel like I'm in extra innings, and I'm just going to do with it as much as I possibly can while I'm here.
I heard you say something on something I found on YouTube. It was an interview somewhere. Then you were talking about, I probably won't get it exactly right, but you were talking about maybe that moment of knowing there was a heart, and then praying for the family and feeling like if I don't make it through the surgery, I know I'm going to be okay.
Yeah. And
if I do make it through the surgery, I know I'm going to be okay.
Yeah. So the only thing that can prepare, there's nothing that can prepare you. And so, it's a conversation with God constantly, and just staying in prayer. And it was just, such of a warm blanket, a feeling of comfort around me, knowing whatever happened would be okay. This is before the drugs. This is everything. This is just me in prayer and with God and going through everything and praying for my kids. And, you know, when people ask, you know, what was one thing that you wish you would have done more, you know, with the time, that's the most, I would just say, spend more time with my kids, leading them to Christ, getting them closer.
Right.
I mean, they know Christ,
Right.
they know him, you know, and I can do my part but that would be my, at that time, wish, and still now wish, is that I had them closer, a relationship with Christ. And so
How long have you had the new heart?
2 years.
Wow. I can tell that it's still, and I'm not being judgmental when I say this, but it's still very fresh. The emotions are very fresh, because I can tell you're kind of fighting back tears even when you talk about it.
Yeah. I mean, it's, you know, that's one thing they don't talk to you about, you know, the anxiety, the stress, the emotions, all the stuff that comes along with it. You know, maybe they don't know what to prepare for, or maybe they don't want to tell you everything. You know, it's like, we're going to save your life, but you're going to have these emotions and all of these types of feelings. But it is a lot of feelings that come along with that. And you know, at KU, they'll call me and they'll say, hey, can you go talk to somebody? They're about to get an LVAD put in. Can you go talk to them and their wife and explain to them how life is afterwards? Or they're about to get, and I'd be happy to. And so I go talk to them to help explain to them that, hey, there is life beyond this. You know, they give you this bag to put over on you, and you can see your batteries and stuff. And I found a way to put these Under Armour football pants and put the batteries in the football pants, so you can still have your swagger and be able to be out there, right? And so I'm like, life's not over, you know. You got to keep going, you know. And so I think that's what, you know, going there for emotional support, mental support, because it's you know, yes, you're physically fighting, but mentally too, there's a lot of, I mean, it's your darkest hour. Where's you know, the hope, you know, and you know, the prayers that, you know, I waited on the list for 3 years, so I think I was on every single prayer chain list, or close to.
Probably so.
And the prayer chains list, they help keep me up. And I remember some of, you know, the kids would ask, is Garen ever going to get this heart? You know, and so we've been praying for him for 3 years now. And so.
Come on, God.
Yeah.
It's taking so long.
Yeah. So, but anyway, so I did get it. And now it's, you know, I've been blessed, so I want to be a blessing. And so that's where I'm at.
You have hit on so much.
I know.
Yeah.
This is where I'm finding out how bad of an interviewer I am, because a good interviewer would be able to be in tune to what the person is saying and take notes on what he wants to ask. But I am so worried about being distracted while I'm taking notes that I'm going to miss something.
I know. Well, I do want to, you referred to something, and so I am curious. I want to go back. You said something about wanting to be able to meet the parents of whoever was that able to happen? So
that letter goes to Midwest Transplant Center, and then they connect with the family. And then if the family, they want to, they can. It takes a year for them first to, you know, because of grieving and things like that. Sure. And plus they want to know that my body accepted the heart.
Right. Oh, yeah.
So the chances of survival after the first year is much greater. And so they had to wait the year. And then it took me even after that, even though I wrote the letter 2.5 years before my transplant, it took me another 6 months. Like, is it perfect? Did I put the final touches on it? I want this to be so perfect.
Right. Yeah.
Because how do you say thank you to somebody who just died and gave you a heart to live?
Right.
So, and then, you know, my doctor and everything, they're like, Garen, stop. Like, it don't have to be that perfect. They just need to know that somebody got it and somebody's doing good with it, right? Yeah. So I sent that off, and I haven't received anything or heard anything from the owner, from the parents. But I would love to be able to meet them and let them put a stethoscope on my heart and hear it, or record it and put it in a teddy bear for them, so they can have it.
What do you know about the person who passed that gave you your heart?
You know, I don't know anything about them.
Was it young, old? They were young?
They can be as young as 15 years old. That's a full, mature heart.
Wow.
So, but they said I have a Ferrari heart. So it's a young heart. So I just, want to do the best I can with it. I had to go back in just 10 weeks ago to get a valve replacement done because the valve was damaged. And so they had to go and replace it.
Damage from the actual procedure of putting it in, or we don't know?
We don't know. We don't know if it was from an accident prior. Gotcha. We don't, they said they would have seen it, but I'm just grateful for that they was able to fix it. They were able to get in there and so I'm grateful for.
How regular do you have checkups?
So I go in every quarter now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I've got, because I will dominate with all these questions. So we'll try to find a way to alternate. Go ahead.
Okay. Now I've lost my train of thought. Okay. So I was going to go back to the days or three years that you had the thing sewn to the bottom of your heart and the cord coming out and the battery packs. Is that right? 3 years you had that?
3 years.
Okay. So a day in the life, just a day, because you said every 10 hours the battery had to be replaced. So you had to replace that twice a day.
Yes.
Well, more than that. 2.5, whatever. But like, I don't know. Do you have, like, I'm imagining like having a timer set on your, like an alarm set on your phone for like, you got an hour, you got 30 minutes, you got 15 minutes, like, was that like, I can't even imagine. Like, I get anxious about really not important things compared to a pump running my heart. Right.
Yeah. I would have died from the anxiety.
It is a lot of anxiety.
I can't imagine.
And so you get extra batteries and you get a bag to carry around with you.
Yeah.
And they teach you, like, hey, you got to have this bag. These batteries go bad, or if a wire goes bad, then to know
how to swap it out.
Yeah. So I got two extra wires, 2 extra batteries in a bag that I carry around, and so I would be driving around in my truck, with my coworker, and my battery started beeping, and like we're in traffic. And we're trying to get over the side of the road to get the battery swapped out. I've got, it's under a ladder and a bag of tools, but I got my batteries, so I'm trying to get them out. Right. And then because I wore them in my pants, I'm trying to get my pants down.
Off the side of the road?
Yes. And
wow, unbelievable.
Yeah, I think it freaked Tom out more than me. I was just so focused on getting the batteries put in, and he just like paralyzed and like, what do I do? How he didn't watch me stroke out right there.
Oh my gosh.
And so.
Wow.
But the day in the life is you wake up. I'm constantly wearing those girdle pants.
Yeah.
And you're taking a lot of bird baths. Otherwise you got to put this in a bag and wrap that up and in the shower. So, you're really planning out your weeks, a lot of stuff, your days, and what can you do. And a lot of it is, energy wise, you don't have a lot of energy, so it's a lot of naps. So I'm going to the office a lot. I'm working, putting that in, coming home, naps, still a lot of doctor's appointments, going to get your blood tested because you got to be perfect to be on that list. It's very hard. I mean, that's another conversation of how they allocate hearts and how you get to be on the list and the committees you got to go through and everything you got to just to be perfect. So, getting your blood tested a lot, because blood thinners, because you got to be blood thinners. All of this
I'm
stuff.
sure there were probably medications, supplements, diet restrictions, possibly.
Yes. Because blood thinners, you can't eat a lot of vitamin K, which is greens, salads, because it changes the blood thickness, and so.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, so just a lot
stuff I would have never thought of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a lot to learn to go through that. And it seems like a lifetime ago, yet it was so just recent. A lot there. Getting even today, not having batteries on me, I feel like when I'm getting out of bed, right? Because you have these batteries hanging out of your cord, right? Sometimes I'll just have them over here. You get out and those batteries drop, and you're like, oh. Yeah, and it reminds you. So even today, a lot of times I still feel like, okay, I'm tethered to something.
Yeah.
Wow.
So this is a really personal question, and if you're not comfortable answering it, I totally understand. But can you give me us, everyone listening, an idea when you talked about the daily prayer? You're waiting on a heart. what does your prayer sound like? You talked about praying for your kids and wanting them to grow closer to Christ. But are you praying for his will to be done? Are you praying to be alive? Are you praying? I mean, can you give me the root
that
beneath
prayer,
the surface? What does this prayer sound like?
Yeah, I mean, that prayer evolved. That prayer first off was, God, what do you want from me? Why this? Everything's gone, right? And then it was like, what do you want? What do you want your will to be? That was it. Obviously you want to live, but is that what was best for me at the time? I don't know. And from this, I'm dying, so it's all dismal, but yet from all of this came a company that just torpedoed, and my health that, obviously I had some other surgeries, and I had an infection, but after I got that heart infection or heart transplant, that infection went down immediately within a day. And I was out of the hospital within 1 week. And this was in December 11th, 2020, during COVID. All the hospitals, all the doctors were just frazzled. The hospital, the ER was full. It was insane. And the doctors were frazzled. And here I am. I'm just healing like this is a miracle. Like a week, you just got a heart transplant. You're up and walking the next day. You're and you get to go home in a week. Most people don't go home in a week. But I knew the doctor team and all the nurses so well because I've been there for 3 years. I mean, I've been there with the program longer than half of them. I mean, so that getting out in a week was like a boost in the arm for them. They needed that shot in the arm, like, to feel good about themselves, and so I probably maybe shouldn't have gone out in a week, but I went out hurting just to get home and, and lay in bed and rest. But
do you think any of that, and I'm guessing probably not, but I could see where maybe it was, like you said that was December of 20.
Yes.
So do you think any of that had, like you getting out earlier, had anything to do with COVID? Like as far as the doctors were concerned, like I realize you were probably far away from everyone, but then you have, there's obviously exposure. Right. A hospital's a safe place, but also it's where the sick people are. So
it was questionable. And again, that was the heart transplant surgery. Prior to that, I had ripped my heart pump out. I'd lost your body has 7 liters of blood in it. And I'd bled 3 liters of blood into my pleural sac. So they had to go back in and sew the pump back in.
That was when?
That was one of the surgeries. That was a year after having the.
So 2019-ish.
Yeah, 2019. Yeah. And that's
how did that
got
happen?
The infection. I was throwing a bundle of shingles.
Oh my gosh.
So
did they say, what were you thinking?
Yeah. And I said, well, you want me to be, stay strong for the surgery because I want you to, but then at that point they were like, Garen, we just want you sitting in that recliner and not getting out. And I said, well, how about a truck seat? Can I sit in my truck seat and drive around at least?
So what was what went through your head when that happened?
Well, I didn't know what happened at first. All I know is hard to breathe because all the blood was pushing my lung up and I was coughing and everything.
Gosh.
And so,
oh my gosh!
But no blood coming out of my mouth. I didn't know what had happened, and so finally I went to them, and it was like again emergency in there, and Dr. Abick is the same surgeon, saved me 3 times with that one. So
like I'm just like. Have you bought this guy a truck or anything cool? Like I don't know.
Well, no. What I did do is I bought him all
like something like 3rd time's I don't know.
Anything Dr. Abick wants, I'll get him. If he needs a roof, I did buy him all brand new pairs of shoes for Doctor's Appreciation, Nurse Appreciation Week, because everyone was getting them coffee and flowers. And I'm like, I see how much these people walk around daily.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then I'm also thinking like, man, this surgery's going to be like 8 hours. I don't want him there popping his ankles or something. And so maybe I get him some comfortable shoes.
Oh, wow.
Wait, what kind of shoes did you get?
There were like Cole Haans, the cushy ones, so they can stand.
The Ons?
Yeah, Cole Haans.
Yeah. Well, they came out with this new tennis shoe called Ons.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm in the market for the. Sorry. Left field.
Squirrel. Well, if you save Garen's life somehow, then he'll buy you shoes.
Ons. I want a pair of Ons, all right?
Yeah.
Just tell me how I need to save your life in the few hours that you're going to be here in case that happens.
Well, hopefully
it doesn't.
So when that happened, you didn't know that it
It was internally. It came out, so I didn't know because I
And you didn't feel it? There was no sensation there, huh?
I'm mad. See, when you said that, I thought the cord. Like I'm thinking of my headphone cord in front of me, and I'm like, the shingles like pulled. It would be like unplugging the cord.
Well, because the cord came out of the side over here, and the heart was hooked up over here, and so I didn't feel it. And everybody asks, like, did you know when I was coming down with this? Even what did you feel like? I didn't. You know, your heart don't have the nerves in it, like you get kicked in the shin and you're like, ow. So you don't know what's going on. Even the infection wise, I had some like bloating up here, but I thought it was an ulcer from stress or something.
That's back when the sinus infection got to your heart.
Yes.
Which, I don't know.
Yeah, we haven't got into that yet. And I want to get into that in just a second. But if you don't mind, we got a little bit off track. I want to go back to the prayer part again because it's okay. I find you talked about the prayer evolving, and I would imagine based on how you said the prayer started off, there was a lot of like concern and fear and not really knowing what to ask for. Where were you at maybe at the end of all of that praying to where you did feel that peace, that comfort, like you were asking for the right things, you were at peace with whatever his decision would be, whether it was to stay here and live and be a witness to others through him, or to go ultimately home with him? What did that prayer look like?
That prayer looked like being there for my kids, right? That's the first thing is, in your kids, in your family. And then, but then that was kind of already taken care of through the succession planning. The whole succession planning bring a lot of peace to me, because a lot of people don't think about, oh, hey, I may die someday. It's because it's scary. You don't want to think about it.
So your biggest fear of dying was worried about how everybody behind, in your circle, your kids are going to be taken care of.
Because I just lost my dad. I was the patriarch of the family, and here I am stepping up, and here I am failing the situation. And so I had to, get everything lined out, get my kids secure, get, college. What happens to the Shamrock family? How does that happen? I mean, it's when they knock on your office door and they come down and sit down like, hey, Garen, we just really need to have this conversation with you. What happens if you don't
make it?
And then it's just so the management group takes over and continues to run it. It's still going to continue to be, funded, and it's going to continue to run. You're going to have a job. I just won't be here. And so,
was it difficult to have the capacity for those questions? I mean, you have got so much going on just dealing with your own physical health. You're thinking about your kids. Was your mom still alive through all of that? So
my mom's still alive.
Right. So you're thinking about her.
The business. And so I'm thinking about her. I'm thinking about
employees.
Employees. Yes.
So were you ever overwhelmed to where like you knew this was a priority? This was something important. You have to do this. But did you have the capacity, or did you ever just say, I don't have the mental capacity for this? Yeah,
it was, I didn't have that option. It was like your back's against the wall. You go do this. You almost emotionless. And I say that while you're feeling every single emotion.
Yeah.
You're walking through, eyes wide open, knowing all this is going on, sitting out there, picking up your headstone and all this stuff so your mom don't have to do that, planning your kids' estates, all of that type of stuff so your mom, doesn't have to do that because they were minors. That's was a lot, to deal with that, and getting past that and just saying, okay, everything's ready to go. Now I'm gone. Now what, right? Now it's everything's set up in a way. Now it's like good. It's now I'm free. The session plan's going. Now let's go live life. God, what do you want me to do? If you want me to live and get this heart, then great. And if you want me to not, then let me just keep doing what I'm doing and spend time with my kids and help grow this business, because we're making, leaders there, we're growing, so, and they have families they take care of, and so it's just rippled out from even Shamrock to the Shamrock family, to the Shamrock, their kids, and to all the people that we employ and stuff. So it's a lot of responsibility, so it's, heavy as the head that wears the crown type of thing, but having the succession planning done, having that laid out, really gave me the peace. And it's now like Shamrock runs on its own at this point. It doesn't grow so much on its own. I'm back there. I'm pushing the action. I'm nonstop, growing. But anytime I'm in the hospital, like I had to go again, I got 5 managers that they just lock arms and they are one. And it is awesome to watch them, to know that it is taken care of. If there's an issue, 3 out of the 5, they'll make a vote on it and it'll go from there. And
so you have like kind of a board?
Yes, between all the managers.
Okay.
And how I came up with that idea was because one, I was constantly losing managers, whatever, and then I had it in church, and the pastor, it was a large growing church, and the pastor had an affair, right?
Okay.
And a lot of the people of that church stopped attending because their faith was in that pastor, not faith that was in God, right?
Right.
And so he was we're all fallible, right? And I'm dying. I could be dying anyway. So not that guy's that pastor was any different. He's still an amazing person. He sinned like we all do.
Yeah.
But what I learned from that was not just to have one person like me, have a committee. You have 3 people or at least to be able to rotate in that, to bring that business. And that's really what I did. Was I seen how that church handled that situation, and I said that's phenomenal. I said I'm going to do this with the business so that I'm not if I'm not there.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So many questions.
Now what?
We definitely got to get to the sinus infection. How are we doing on time? 45 minutes already. Wow. Okay. What was I going to ask you? I know what it was. So in the course, I'm really intrigued by the prayer. Like how does somebody pray during what you have gone through? Like, somebody like
it's super intimate, super vulnerable, and it's the prayers is I'm honestly praying for everybody else. Because, I'm what's going to happen with me is going to happen with me, right?
Yeah.
So I'm praying for my children. I'm praying for my mom. I'm praying for the family that lost their child. I'm praying for the doctors.
Yeah.
That God is touching their hand through everything, and that God's will be done. And that's really what it's about. And then, when I woke up, that's the prayer, going into it. And it's just, at that point, God he told, I got you. And it was just this warm blanket, this warm, fog, this before, I was wheeled back there and to start that process. And then when I woke up, going from having no pulse and just living off of a blood flow. When I woke up, the heartbeat in my ears sounded like drums, and it was the most glorious thing I've heard.
Oh my
I'm like,
gosh.
I woke up and I hear this heartbeat, and it's like, I made it. Like, I made it through it. Now what?
Yeah.
Now, and so.
So where I wanted to go with the last question is, because I'm beating a dead horse with the whole prayer thing. I apologize, but
It's a good horse.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's a big horse.
A white one.
As I like to say, and I've said it many times on this show, I call it the aha moment. When you finally figured out, or you felt like God has told you what your purpose is and what he wants for you. Something must have happened. There had to have been a pivotal moment that just made you go, that's it. That's what I'm supposed to do. What was that?
So I can't say that. Well, there was, while I was in ICU, there's this heart transplant group, so you can't talk to anybody. There's nobody in there because it's COVID. I'm in there by myself. Right. So I'm meeting, the heart transplant group, talking to other people, sharing my situation. They're sharing their situation. And there was a gal, and she had 2 kids and her husband, and long story short, she didn't get the heart and she passed away. And I just remember praying, like, dear Lord, if I get out of here, if I get out of ICU, if I get a heart and I can go on, I want to share this story. However I can. I want to get this message out. I want to go to Midwest Transplant and share that message. I want to go donate life and share that. Work with the American Heart Association and share that, because there's so many people waiting on the donor list waiting on a list right now, and a donor saves 8 lives. And so that was my prayer, to get out there and push out that message.
Okay.
And then that she didn't make it, and her kids are there, and his husband's there, and now whereas there's enough technology out in the world right now, if we can approve some of this stuff, that she could have probably been saved, or if they could have changed the way the UNOS, United Nations organ sharing, works, which is our 2 other rabbit holes we could go down to, that she could probably have been saved, and I could have got a heart faster than 3 years. But those are another conversations. But that was the moment when I said, you know what, I just want to get out there and share this message. And when I get out there and share this message, I'm not a professional speaker or anything, but I was asked to go give my story, my testimony, in front of 10,000 people in Dallas. There were a bunch of roofers and attorneys, and I'm going on stage after Jerry Jones, and then after Jordan Belford, and
pretty good company.
Yeah. And then and Herschel Walker. Wow. And so then I go on stage, and I'm just 10,000 people.
Yeah.
And it's such an emotional story, and I'm sharing my story, and I'm crying, like I'm crying on stage in front of people. But it was to the point where I don't care what I look like when I'm sharing my story. It's the message,
right?
And it's I'll cry. It doesn't make me any less of a man. It's a story to share, to get the message out to people, to be able to donate, check that box on their license when they're getting their license. But it shows that the message is what's most important to me, and even now, I'm getting to give the story at the Heart Ball of my story. And even though I've been asked to go give speeches in front of different churches and banks and different audiences to hear this inspirational story, this Comeback Kid Award. Yeah. That's what I did in front of those 10,000 people. And everyone cares, like, what do I look like? How do I look? It's you're dead. It doesn't matter. Get the story out there, because after you die, you get a little blurb in a paper, and that's about it. They remember you for about a week. They say prayers for you, and you're gone, right? Like, so let's be real about that. I mean, I want to leave a legacy, but how far is that legacy going to be remembered, right? For real. And so, so then I really had to just throw your ego away to get out there and be that humble, to get out there and a bunch of roofers, just a bunch of ego galore industry, jacked up on steroids and everything else going on out there. And I'm up on stage giving a story about God saving my life and my heart, and how I have a favor on me and favor on the business. And because I know that, there are guys out there in that audience that probably worked harder than me, that did more than me, yet my business was the one that took off and rose. And that's God's favor on me. And he did that in 2 ways. He did it in my business, and he did it within my physical health and coming back, and so that's the story of that. So because people will ask me, Garen, how did you do it? And I'm like, here's the book. Here's, from a business analyst side of me, I'll tell you this and this and this and this, and here's the business plan. Go, and it's still not replicatable for whatever.
So what you're saying is, if you just went on paper and you took your business plan and compared it to maybe 10 other roofing companies, it might not on paper look like it was going to be that successful or that much more successful than this one, or you know what I mean? Is that what you mean?
Right. Like why they couldn't duplicate it.
Right.
And it's, so it is God's favor on it, but it is also the way we're a people business that happens to specialize in the roofing systems is what we are.
Okay.
And so, but yeah, that's the point. I'd happy to give the business plan away and see, but it's
right.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, we got to get to the sinus infection, because that is very fascinating to me. Well, let me ask this. I'm trying to find the right way to ask this. So you've obviously scaled probably beyond what you even expected. You said taking it to the moon. Are you doing exactly what you thought you were going to do or what you set out to do? Or have you...
It surpassed my wildest
Right.
expectations. So now it's rebalancing and finding new people. I mean, I'm outgrowing a lot of things. I've outgrown, my CPA firm, I'm outgrowing my bank. I'm outgrowing things. I mean, people are used to, wealth advisors, used to dealing with affluent people, but then there's another level of stuff that there's a smaller group of people that deals with insurance wise, all these different things wise. Another level that I'm finding myself in that I'm like a fish out of water, and I'm learning, and meeting different people. And a lot of people, business owners, are, they're quiet. They're not out there, and so. And they're few and far between to find out and say, hey, what'd you do about this situation or that situation? Or how do you manage your estate here, your wealth over here? How do you mitigate liability? Those are some things that I'm growing past through now. And as well as handling endowments, for hospitals, charities, now it's like, okay, I rung the bell. I mean, I still want to keep growing Shamrock, but I want, do I want to be known for, this in the entrepreneurial world for that, or more the philanthropy world?
Yeah.
And the philanthropy world is really where my passion is.
Okay.
And so talking about, getting people to donate, getting people to raise money for, heart research and stroke, is big, and being able to give vehicles away and roofs away to veterans and first responders, that is big. So, that's really what has my passion, and it takes quite a bit of time. I don't think people realize how much time volunteering does take
for it to be successful, for sure.
Yeah.
So that you've kind of answered where I was going with my next question, and I guess I'm selfishly going to kind of put me in this situation from what I've experienced and what I've gone through. And I apologize in advance for doing this, because I'm not trying to make this about me, but this is part of a little struggle that maybe I'm dealing with. And I'd like to get your thoughts on it. When I was at the height of my success and everything was, I had been what I was saying, but look what I built. Right. And I probably wasn't spending enough time giving glory to God for what he had blessed me with. But I did put in the work. And I was using my talents and my resources to scale this business before COVID happened, and then everything went away. So it really opened up my mind to a few things. One, making sure that I'm always being grateful, showing gratitude and thanking God for the blessings. But then thinking, am I being greedy? Am I being greedy for wanting to have tremendous success? And when I say tremendous success, it means monetarily. Like, I want to make as much money as I possibly can. I want to be able to have the funds to be able to put away, that my family, that I'm leaving a legacy financially for my family. They don't ever have to worry about it. I can have the recreation, like land to go hunt on and do my own thing, and these are things that I aspire for. And I'm wondering, I guess, and I don't know how to ask it without just boldly asking it, because you are so into your business and your entrepreneurship and scaling your business, but now you've got a new sense of life and a new respect for life. How does that look? Like, do you ever like feel like it's sinful or greedy to want to just dominate the world and make as much money as you possibly can? Because a part of me wonders, maybe I shouldn't be treating life like that, because I still want to do that, but now after everything I went to, I wonder if I shouldn't be doing that.
Right. So it comes back to time, right? And you only have so much time in this world, right? And so it comes back to this question, Garen, do you sell now? What do you want? How much? You can only ski behind one boat. You can't ski behind two boats. What are you doing with all this, right? Just more stuff to take care of. And so, it's not being greedy. Number one, it's the more you make, the more you're able to give out, right? And that's a platform. This is what this has given me is the ability to be able to do more philanthropy. If I didn't have the financial ability to come out and take the day, or to come give a podcast, or to go, travel to Pittsburgh to a church and talk to them about my story, then I wouldn't be able to give more. If I wasn't able to be in this position, and have a platform to go raise money for the American Heart Association's Life is Why Foundation, or to help put on a gala for Cars for Heroes February 3rd.
Nice plug.
It's coming up quick.
So, then that's what the money's for. Money's not, I'm not driving Lamborghinis or flashing or flexing on the gram or any of that stuff. It's
Flexing on the gram.
Yeah, it's more about it's a humble flex. It's, God, what do you want me to do, right? Like, so, those people that'll hit me up on Facebook. They're, hey, I'm going on this mission, and I'm needing this much. They won't know that I send people on mission trips all over the place.
Yeah.
But I do, and so I don't have that greed issue, because I know that I'm what I'm doing with that money is I'm helping spread God's light, and the more you have that, the more it's just a microphone, and it's going to make you more of who you already are.
But before you, and I'll call it before you got sick, was it different? Was it about the money? Was it about the drive and just the success and looking what you can build? You said you were a Christian, as am I, but I've maybe been hit up top side of the head to pay more attention to what that really means. So does it look different now in your desire to scale versus it before you got sick?
Yes, it does. Before I got sick, I wanted to keep it small, because I had a large company before.
Okay.
And management is not one of my strong suits. I'm a leader, and a servant leader, and a fire starter, and a rainmaker. That's what I do. I'll go out and do that.
Okay.
And then I'll bring teams together, and then, implement strategy and execute. That's what I'm good at.
Okay.
Managing, now that we're here, at close to 40 million, man, it kind of runs by itself. I mean, I liked working with, startups and doing things like that in the past. So when I started this, I wanted to stay small, and just, it was make enough money to live.
Yeah.
It was
Be comfortable.
Be comfortable. And then after I got sick, then it was, I can't get up on these roofs and do these things and all of this stuff, because I can't. So I need to go back to scaling teams, growing teams, treat them, educate them, and replicate, the systems in place.
So you took on a mentality that you're only as successful as the people that you surround yourself with. And then by doing so and creating these teams, it allowed you to elevate to a level beyond what you ever expected or wanted to be.
Correct.
That's incredible.
So you didn't want, you said when you started, you wanted to keep it small. That was because of losing everything before.
Correct.
You didn't want to have all that responsibility of all those people counting on you, and
right.
It
Yeah. Did we
apart.
talk about that on here, or was that off the show? You said you had lost everything because you were in the mortgage business,
Yes.
right? Or title business. And with the housing crash of 2008, you lost everything.
Yes. So I was on the top. I've done rung the bell before, and then, losing everything. And, I called it the fall of shame, living in your $1 million homes and moving into your parents' basement, watching the, just like what's going on here in life. And then I remember, for 3 months, just depressed and trying to figure out what's next, and just trying to accept that whole thing, watching that fall apart from 105 people. So, but then one morning I was sitting out on the front porch, just having my coffee and watching the fog roll off the river on my mom's farm. And I was like, wow, I'm glad I'm not back in that neighborhood. And it was a who's who and who's with Vince and everything else. And it got me really recentered in life with Christ. That's what that did. That was, hey, Garen, that was the greed that you talk about.
Yeah.
Do I feel guilty? Greed. Now, no. Then that was the greed that was a lot of reflection on. It was go, and that was all for the money.
Yeah.
And I reflect on that, and and you wonder why, and things happen in life. But it taught me the lessons that I learned from that, and it also taught me that, hey, you know, now since, you know, 15 years later, how long that's been, you know, you've seen all these other rise of a lot of entrepreneurial, they call and success, you know, from social, whatever, but they haven't had the scars, you know, they don't got that, you know, lines, you know, cut across their face from, you know, being a true entrepreneur in life. And so, you know, so that's what happened. And then that's why I didn't want to grow this as big, because I experienced that. And the fall is so painful. Yeah. And when you have to make decisions about other people's lives, other people's families, you think twice about, you know, am I being reckless? Am I being smart? Am I making the wise decision? Am I showing discernment? Am I, you know, to you know, through COVID, through everything, you know, when there isn't any material, how I you know, had to change different, you know, pivot, you know, start acquiring more material, you know, semi trucks as I could get it, you know, so that I could stay in business. So there's just a lot more maturity in the leadership than being 25, having that much success.
Yeah. I promise we're going to get to the sinus infection.
Yeah.
Promise.
This must be a good question.
The promise. Well, I'm so compelled with the timeline and all it's kind of been a roller coaster for you, you know, like in a lot of different ways, from the highest to highs to you lost everything in 2008 to you build yourself back up, and as things is scaling, and then all of a sudden you get wham, you need a new heart. You talked about sitting out on the back of your mom's house and you're watching the fog come off the river. And I'm guessing that's 2008, 2009, right around about that time. Yes. And tell me again when your dad passed.
2016.
Okay. So 8 years later, you know, what does it, when you had that, and again, I call it the aha moment, when you're like, okay, this is greed. I don't have my priorities straight. I need to maybe downsize a little bit and get right with God. So then you realize that. How then do you realize where you want to go next? Is that when the software thing happened?
Yeah. So then I'd invested in this, in the software for the mortgage company. So I learned.
So that
software.
had already started.
So that's how I started learning the software.
Okay.
So I said, so I learned it can be done, because again, you know, software just kind of would be scary for me not to. Then I invested in a company that created software, and then that investment had a contract with Wyndham, and then the founder and the main investor had this falling out, and it's $100 million contract. They fell out, and that contract went away. So then I said, you know,
How long ago was that? After
that was 2009.
Okay, so about a year later.
After. Yeah. So I had a little. That was like my only thing cooking, and then it just fell
right.
apart.
So that's where I'm trying to go. I'm trying to like understand you keep getting hit, you know, but you're still swinging, you know, like Ryan Lefevre says in the podcast, you know, just keep going to the plate, keep swinging.
Right.
So how what was the next thing then that was, because your dad didn't pass away until years later, right?
Well, so then I said, okay, he's having a falling out with the main investor, whatever. I see this market. I see Wyndham. I'm like, okay, you know, that they're other than micro. So a lot of people were looking for these reservations, the property management system. This was before, not VRBO. What's the
Airbnb?
Airbnb.
Yeah.
Sure. It was before Airbnb, or about the same time, you know. And I've got a reservation system, but a full packaged hospitality management system. It'd manage a hotel. And so I said, after that fell apart, I said, I'm getting on the phone with the developers, and I'm saying, guys, we get this created as soon as possible. So I called my developers that worked for me building the software when I had the mortgage company.
Okay.
And so I called those guys back up, Paul and George, and not Ringo. Just
I was gonna say, yeah, where's Ringo?
And we said, hey, let's build this up. And you know, unfortunately, we weren't able to build it in the timeline that was needed for that contract. And you know, we got the Department of Defense instead, which wasn't the home run. That was, you know, the bunt that I got to beat out and got a single. So
how you're investing in this though?
Yes.
Right. So is it 100% liquid capital coming on your end, or do you have other investors that are involved in this? Like, how are you living?
So
That's your job right then. I mean, that's the only thing you're doing.
That was, yes. During that time, I was doing other like web development, SEO.
Side hustles.
Yes.
Okay.
To keep pushing that out. I was doing some consulting, doing some business, and but during that time, business was, 2009, 10, it was bad. It was really bad. A lot of people don't remember that time still. I mean, except for people who've been around. So, there wasn't a lot going on. So yeah, a lot of side hustles that kept that going. And then after that, I mean, I had friends that were like, Garen, how long are you going to stay with this? That knew me, like that cared about me. How long are you going to stay with this software thing, Garen? Like for real. And
you had to have been asking yourself the same question too.
I was, because, I sell, don't spell. That's what we have to say. And here I got the software. I'm not able to go, because it's not developed yet enough to sell it. So that was why I wasn't able to sell it to Micros, and ended up selling it to the Department of Defense.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so then that's when I went and I called the guy out of the paper, because I didn't want the hand me from the roofing or whatever.
Yeah.
From
Another question that I had: why were you so stubborn about that?
Because I wanted to, to offer some clarity, you had said earlier in the show that you didn't want a handout from your dad. You didn't want anything given to you. You wanted to kind of go out on your own and do it, which I respect. I get that. But why would you not use your dad and his company as a resource to learn? Well, I did learn. I learned a lot of this stuff, but I wanted to learn something different. I felt I'd already learned what I could learn.
I gotcha.
From there. And I prayed about it a lot. Like, so going back, like, what am I going to do? Like, so, and nobody wants to hire an executive who already has these levels of success and everything else. Nobody wants to hire that person. So I'm unhireable. So I found this ad that said, hey, we don't care about your background, so I said, okay, here I am. Let's go. Cause I'm usually with the other business was in, board of directors sitting in meetings and And so then I went from that to selling roofs, knocking doors, door to door.
You were basically a commission sales rep for this roofing company.
Yep. I ate my whole humble pie.
Yeah. No kidding.
And, I said, I'm going to do it and I want to learn. And that's what I did.
Well, did you have kids or family or anything then?
Yeah. 3 kids. I have, then I don't even know how old they were then, but
how old are they now?
They're one's about to be 18, 13, and 16.
Okay. So they were young.
Woo!
So they were very young. I remember pulling them around in a Red Radio Flyer, knocking on doors.
Really?
Yeah. And then
now that's just marketing. You go, look, oh, my kids are so cute. They're
they want to come.
Yeah, it's kind of like the single guy who goes to the dog park to pick up chicks.
Right.
Well, it did work. And they'd go play with the other kids, and then
Right. Then you're a friend.
Yeah.
And your kids are friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Smart.
Yeah, it worked. But that's how I learned with them. I did that for 3 to 5 months, short time, and in that time, I sold a lot for, let's say about $750,000. Problem is, they didn't have infrastructure in place. It was, like I said, they were based out of Texas. I wasn't getting paid. This is kind of a common MO with, with roofing companies like that. And with my background as more called a business analyst, I can set this up, I can build this out, and I can build a better mousetrap.
Okay.
And so that's when I learned the insurance side of that. I knew the retail side of that. And then that's when I started, that's when I was given, I'm not given, my mom still owns it. I'm running Shamrock.
Okay. So, but none of that, last question, I promise. None of this.
That's a lie.
I know.
That's a lie.
I know, but gosh, I have so many questions.
Lie detector says that's a lie.
I just got zapped. But when you were doing this, you weren't doing this in anticipation for your dad to pass so that you can take over the business. It just kind of worked out that way.
Yeah, I didn't. I did not want him to pass. It just
Well,
worked
sure.
out, yeah, it just worked out that
But
way.
you said he had cancer, so I was just making sure,
Yeah.
trying to find
Yeah.
clarity in the fact that he didn't have, the first sign of cancer started then, and you thought, in order to, if he goes, I got to keep the company going. I'm going to have to get this experience. None of that was premeditated. It just kind of all happened.
It just kind of all happened and fell into place.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Sinus infection, which it still blows my mind that that because of a sinus infection, the infection was so bad that it went to your heart. Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah. So cardiomyopathy, they say it's a common thing. And, the first thing I said, what? Common? I'm, everybody else in here is 70 years old. I'm 40 years old. What's going on?
First of all, can you say it again?
Cardiomyopathy.
Cardiomyopathy.
Myopathy.
That's what I said, isn't it?
Yeah.
You said
Cardiomyopathy.
You're putting an N in there.
Myopathy.
Very
Yes.
good.
Sorry.
Cardiomyopathy. And
Okay.
so
Now can you
and
spell
w-
it?
no.
I'm kidding.
so
CARDIO something. What does that actually mean?
Well, so there's cardiomyopathy and cardio something. I don't know what it actually means. There's two of them. I had to look it up what the difference was because of all the news that's coming out with people's hearts failing. One of them is cardio. It's not myopathy. It's cardio.
I'll try to find it.
Yeah. But anyway, what happened with the sinus infection was I was working in a hotel that burned down. And so I'm doing the takeoff, estimating for a 187 room hotel, breathing in all of the char from the fire and everything. That is why I got the sinus infection, and why it went to my heart or how it went to my heart, we don't know. It just did go to my heart, and it affected.
So it was
that
you
way.
inhaling the carbons or whatever that were in the air. It wasn't because you already had a bad heart or a weak heart. It was simply that visit that started this kind of spiraling effect.
Yes.
Wow.
And then I spent, weeks in the hospital nonstop. How did I get this? How do I not get it again when I get the new heart? I would bug the doctors. How do I not, till the point where they're like, Garen, you got to stop stressing on this. Cause I wanted to know,
Sure.
I can just mind my own business. I was a lot, 200 pounds. I worked out a lot. I
Yeah.
was strong. I was fit. I
40 years old,
a
you said,
lot.
right?
Yeah. And the doctor said that the only reason I was survived as long as I did was because my body was I was strong and it was relying on the other organs and the other bodies, my body.
Okay.
Mm.
Going into a situation like that where you're going to do an estimate on a building that has been burned, which is what it was, right?
Yeah. I was in there a lot. It had already been there and I was in there.
Had you
quite a
been in
bit.
that situation before with other buildings that had been
I-
burned? Like, is it
I've
protocol
been-
to
I've
go
been-
into a situation like that with with no protection or PPE or anything?
Yeah. I mean, is it, I've been in a lot of these situations, and people, adjusters and estimators, they don't show up with full PPE gear. I mean, sorry, OSHA, but I mean, yes, have a mask on or whatever, but you're there, you're first on the scene. I mean, you're trying to know what's going on, but
Yeah.
whether it was, like the fire in that situation, I've been in situations, in 100-year-old buildings, and I've been in grain elevators, breathing in so much different stuff along the construction road with my, dad and stuff. So
was
you
it
don't
was
think
it
about
frowned
these things.
upon? I guess what I'm asking is, do you have a new respect now for going into those situations with you having a staff that they make sure that they are following protocol as
Yes,
far as
yes.
wearing PPE?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Mask up for sure.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So had you done that?
So had I done that, then good probability that then maybe I wouldn't have got the sinus infection.
And did
But
you
who
know
knows?
that prior because of all the situations, or nobody gave you any tutelage on doing that, or you just kind of took it for granted?
I just took, as you're bulletproof, right? I've been through this situation. I've been through this situation, and been through, enough lives to make a cat blush. So
Just in the last 5 years, let alone before that. I don't know.
Right.
I got to remember that one. Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah. So having worn that may have made a difference. I don't know.
So you had the sinus infection before that, or that's what caused it?
That's what caused
That's
it.
what caused
Yeah.
the sinus infection.
Just being in there and breathing it.
But
and
what then made it? I mean, I've just never heard of a sinus infection then going to your heart. Did you not treat the sinus infection?
I was treating it. I was taking everything under the sun.
Okay.
I was fine. You know, I thought I was fine. My mom's like, Garen, you need to go to the doctor. You need to go to the doctor. No, Mom, I'm good. I got to work. And to the point where I went to work, and then I was getting off the roof that day and just wobbly, almost didn't make it off the ladder.
Yeah.
And they were like, Garen, you know, that's when I drove myself to the hospital.
Okay.
And then I was code blue immediately.
It's just so nuts. It's so crazy that an infection would go like, I mean, I get it, I guess. I mean, if you think, I mean, I not understanding that industry or what happens when a building burns down and all the different toxins that are in the air.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it makes sense. I mean, we think about our former coworker who, from all the years that he, what was it that he had, Dave?
You had to ask because I was thinking it while you were talking.
Yeah, me too. Mesothelioma.
Mesothelioma.
I can't say that word either if you can't tell.
From all the asbestos in the lungs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He'd worked in a body shop or something like that.
That was somehow from body shop work. Yeah.
And it was years later that then he got diagnosed with that. But it was just, again, it's all the toxins in the air that you don't think that you're inhaling or breathing and it's taking its toll on your body.
You know, the number one question, a lot of people, well, did you get any money from that? Did you sue him? I'm like, no, I didn't sue him. And no, I didn't, you know, because, well, one, it was a family friend that owned the hotel I was in. And, you know, at the time, well, workman's comp situation, you can exclude some of the, you know, the owner or the owner's, you know, son or whatever. So I was excluded on there anyway. But it's like a lot of people go and say, well, I want to go sue these people. What I would spend years suing somebody to get nothing out of it when I spent those years focusing on my health, focusing on building the business, and getting, and now way more money than I'd ever dreamed of making if I just spent my time trying to go after an insurance company. So, you know, that's a question I find people ask me that a lot, and I'm like, no, I didn't sue him.
Yeah.
So
I've dominated with a lot of questions, Jill. So if you have anything, go ahead.
I've just jumped in when I had one. And they're usually like a little spur off of something that you said.
Sure.
So was the thing you were trying to think of myocarditis?
Myocarditis.
Okay.
That's it.
I had to like Google cardiomyopathy versus and then let it fill it in.
Yep,
because I'm sure people do it all the time. So
Right.
that's what it came up with. So, but then I don't understand any of the verbiage of even, I don't even know what those words, I can't even say.
Pronounce them.
Yeah.
I know.
So anyway.
Okay. Another personal question.
He loves asking
With-
personal questions.
I do. See, on the Papa Ron podcast, we like to get below the surface
Sure,
or pull
yeah.
back the curtain and
Yeah.
really dig into someone's personal life. You're going to find out something here that from Garen that you would have not heard on any other podcast. You heard it here first.
That's right.
So when this was happening right around COVID, so then we're talking about your immune system, right? Because they were talking about COVID being hard on people who have a compromised immune system. So there's, I guess, something that I'd like you to speak on what lengths did you have to take in order to protect yourself from being infected with COVID, and if you ever were, and two, did you get the shot? Did you get vaccinated?
Yeah. So COVID's a real thing. I did not get the vaccine. I was the last person that got the heart transplant without the vaccine. Now they're mandating people to get the vaccine.
Really?
When I'm in there, they're constantly, hey, did you get the shot? Did you get the shot? No, I didn't get the shot. I'm not getting the shot. Leave me alone about the shot.
What was your? Can I ask you?
I got the flu. I got the flu shot. You know, So I'll do as much research with the hospital. Like I said, I let them in there. They're filming me, and it's very cold in the surgery room. So hopefully, when they're dispersing this to all the other hospitals, at least they give me cut out some parts. So, I've been in the hospital so many times, it don't matter.
bet.
You want to put this gown on, it don't matter.
Do you
You're
have
gonna
like
take
a
it right
black
back
card
off.
for the
I should,
like
yeah.
a VIP card? It's like, hey,
Yeah,
okay, let me swipe my card.
Yeah. So, I don't know, where were we at?
Well,
before?
I was really because you mentioned earlier in the show about, where all these heart conditions are starting to pop up, and
Right.
we never
So,
really
yeah,
said
COVID.
we never
I didn't
really
get the
said that
jab.
the COVID
Yeah.
or it's being attributed to the vaccine. Was that the reason why? Because you had done a little bit of research or saw stuff
Yeah.
that made you worried about.
Yeah, it was just there wasn't enough at that point. It was 2020, and there wasn't enough research. They were just saying, "Hey, let's try this." I mean, and I was like, I made it this far. I'm not just putting
Right.
just something in my body that I don't know what's going on with it. Had there be more time, had there be more, I think now they just now have the pharmaceuticals had to come out or with
Yeah.
responses of the side effects from that.
Yep.
And it's like 9 pages. And so, I'm grateful that I didn't take the shot.
Yeah, but
I'm O positive, and I do that. And I go, look, it's not testing, so I'm doing all these different. Well, being O positive was one of the reasons why it took me so long to get a heart, because I can give A's and B's a heart, but O's can only take O's, but also O's don't get COVID or something like that. I don't know.
I've heard that. Yeah. So you never had COVID?
Yeah.
So
That
I
you
don't
know
think
of?
never had it.
Not that I know of.
Okay.
And so I take a handful of anti-rejection meds. I'm low immunity, nonstop, and I'll walk around people. When I wear a mask, I do go wear a mask when I'm in the hospital, just because of other flus and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't want to get COVID. I'm not. But
You say you have low immunity.
low immune. Yeah.
Yeah,
so-
you have a low immune system.
yeah,
Okay,
so-
is that because just in general or because of the heart transplant?
Yeah, so they want me to take all these pills to suppress my immune system, so my
Okay.
body doesn't go after my heart to
Makes sense.
reject the heart.
Didn't track that the first time. Sorry.
Right.
Did they ever give you hope that you, through time, will be able to that immunity will be able to build to where it's stronger, or is this the way it's going to be forever?
I think this is the way it's going to be forever. I think over time, as your body and your heart get together, then maybe I can take less, but it just depends on what your body's doing, how it's handling with everything else. So that's why they're checking your blood all the time to see what you're rejecting, constantly taking handfuls of pills. But this is where it also comes back to, while I'm helping so much with the American Heart Association, is for research. There's research out there that, they can 3D print with your own DNA a heart, right? So then they could print a heart, my own heart, or and put in me. Then I'm not taking a handful of pills that's going to make me have kidney failure and liver failure, because that's exactly what happens with people who have heart transplants. And then next in line is they're getting a kidney transplant and a liver transplant.
Yeah.
Or because of all the pills. Whereas if they're able to replicate a heart, because they're doing that now for babies' hearts, just to practice on them, because they're so small. So they 3D make them, and then they're able to practice on them. So then when the baby's born, or then they're able to actually have kind of already been in that situation before, because they're able to mirror it, 3D, 4D imagery,
Wow.
and then recreate them. And then they're able to practice, their dexterity on this little bitty baby's heart to save this little bitty baby. And it's just phenomenal. And so,
Wow. Sounds like a movie or something.
yeah, it's
You probably could have a movie written about you and your life.
thank you.
Okay. Who would you want to play you?
Yeah, who's going to be you?
I don't even. I don't know. I don't know. I haven't thought about that.
Well, let's think about it. Just having some fun with you.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Oh man,
You're going to be thinking about that later on the
Yeah.
drive. You're going to be like,
Yeah,
who would I want to
Yeah,
play?
who do I want to
That
write
Cooper.
this?
What's that Cooper?
Oh, Bradley Cooper.
Yeah, Bradley
Bradley
Cooper.
Cooper.
That's
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
He's a
Yeah.
good one. I
Yeah.
see
Good
it.
one.
I see it with the beard. Yeah,
It'd be
everything.
about the right age, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how old he is, but it'd be about right.
Yeah.
Bradley listens to the show, so maybe
Oh,
we
probably.
can.
Yeah, he probably does.
The,
Very
Papa
good.
Ron podcast is taken off. It's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
Just kidding. It feels like a big deal having you on the show. I really appreciate it. So what's next for you? Like, I mean, you've talked about the I can't say it.
Philanthropy.
Thank you.
Philanthropy.
Yeah. So you got me stuck
yeah.
on that one word, and now I can't enunciate
I know.
anything.
So two
Sorry.
things. One is Shamrock and continue growing that. It's putting people in place, looking for maybe a CEO or something to help run that even more, while I focus on the philanthropy. So being the chairman for the American Heart Association for the centennial this year is a big thing. My focus, and getting that word out and building out the executive leadership team to help me with that this year. the American the Cars for Heroes event.
Mhm.
We've got the Soldier of the Year in 1968, which was the most violent year of the war. The Soldier of the Year was voted by other soldiers, and so we were throwing a God and Country event in Sherman, Texas, bringing in all the tanks and bringing everybody down there, and so that that's where he lives, and so the Purple
gosh.
Heart. So and Terry is wanting to expand, and I'm really wanting to help him expand since I'm in 11 cities, to expand in those cities and kind of dovetail with him to help him in these areas. And then the other philanthropy area that I want to get into, so I get some freed up time, is helping some at risk youths. People kids that maybe have gotten in trouble before when they're young, and then they're out, and then they don't have any place to go. No one's taking them in.
Okay.
And so there's some I can't think of it. There's some organizations like that I'd like to either emulate or get involved with, something to help that, because
Where does that passion come from?
I when I was younger, I was a knucklehead, and I got in trouble too. And to be honest, Terry was Franz with Cars for Heroes was a mentor for me.
Really?
And so, like I said, I've been with Cars for Heroes for over 22 years, and so that's one of the first things I got involved in all of that. And so, being able to change my life and see that, I want to be able to be an impact for others. That were also knuckleheads. I mean, don't get me wrong, I played sports year round. I was one merit badge away from an Eagle Scout. I went to church. I did all these things, but I was still, after all those times in sports, right? You find yourself, if you didn't go play collegiate ball, what you do? You find yourself with this free time, and so then that's what happened. So here I am, and so that's where that passion is, and right now I'm just trying to figure out the time. It goes back to time, and now I'm alive. What time do I want to do? What
Not
do I wanna
everybody
do?
can say that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Also on my checklist, I am alive.
Right.
But I mean, like, that's a legit thing on your list of
Right.
to-dos.
So it's making sure that the relationship with my kids have a close relationship with God, or that foundation is there, and then it's freeing up more time for me, so that I can help with the philanthropy, the American Heart Association, Cars for Heroes, and continue doing that.
So when is the Heart Ball?
The Heart Ball is February 25th
Okay.
at Lowe's, and if you want to get in with philanthropy and help with Life is Why campaign, then I'd love to help you with get you set up with that. There's an easy button you click, and you just fill out a form, and then your business can start helping the American. People see that you're behind a cause, and they like helping people behind a cause.
Sure.
That's not why I did it, of course. It's just it's just a matter. It happens. It happens that way. It's the law of reciprocity that in giving that comes into play, and so I want to help. Even build more companies. People ask me how I did it. Well, philanthropy is one angle, and so the next speech I get to give in front of these 10,000 roofers is philanthropy in business, and how philanthropy can help your businesses grow. And so that's
okay.
And then what about the Cars for Heroes event, Champagne, Cigars, and Heroes for Cars Gala?
So that is February 3rd at the Abbott. So please get your tickets at Shamrock Roofer /black tie. We have dueling pianos, all you can drink, all you can eat.
The dueling pianos. You got it done.
I love dueling pianos.
He does too. We were on a call, like a conference call. This was was it right after your surgery? So it was several weeks ago.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of like silence right after he said, I really, and I felt like I hadn't been on a lot of the calls before that. And it was reminiscent of an old boss that liked a mariachi band. And every time he brought up a mariachi band, everybody's like, I don't know. And so he says dueling pianos. And I was like, and it was kind of like Silence.
Who's ever gone to a dueling piano bar and not had a good time?
I know. I agree. But so I
Right?
love it. I'm so glad you got it done.
Yeah. It was something
so
different,
glad,
you
yeah.
know. And so we got Travis Marvin going to be DJing it, and so it's gonna
DJing it, huh?
Well, the
MC?
the
MC-ing? Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He's a good friend. I
Okay.
love me some Travis Marvin.
He's
He's been
been
on the
on-
show.
yeah,
He's been on
okay.
the show. Yeah.
Cool.
In fact, I was just talking to him last week. He's a solid dude. I love that guy.
Yeah.
So you're good company with him.
Yes. Yeah, he's absolutely a friend of the firm at Shamrock, and as you know, Cars for Heroes and everything else.
Yeah.
So he's just definitely a good guy, and it just seems it's great how it's been growing, and it's been gravitating more and more like-minded people, and everyone's just stepping up to help, and it just feels good to give, and so you know, that's why we want to bring on more people to help.
Yeah.
And the gala came about was because Terry has done so much for me in my life. Like I said, he's been a mentor for 22 years.
Yeah.
And his health has been kind of declining lately.
Yep.
And of course, he won't tell you. He'll just say, I used to go out and be able to have beers, but now I can't have beers no more. He's got so much good stuff to say. But I just wanted to honor him because he's the most selfless person who gives the shirt off his back to anybody, and gives all these cars away and helps so many different people. And no one has really done anything for him that I know of and I've been around. And so I was like, I wanted to throw an event for him to honor him.
That's cool.
For what he's done for the community for 27 years, and have a good time doing it, so we can just all get together.
Yeah.
And
It's going to be fun.
That's how that.
Will
all
he
came
be able to
about.
drink beer at that?
He will not be able to. You know, I'm just hoping he can get up there and actually walk. His goal is to walk and be able to walk in there. So
Yeah, I've been following on social media. If you're listening, Terry, which I'm sure he is, if you're on the show, he's.
yeah,
we're
he'll
thinking
listen.
about you. We're praying for you, and we love you, buddy.
yeah.
What can we do? I mean, we're a big time podcast. You know, we're global. You're at. I don't know if you know this.
Big time.
You didn't have to worry about security. They were on lunch. I told them to take a break, but you're at RP Enterprises Global Headquarters.
This is pretty cool.
Which I
place.
don't mean compared to the Shamrock Roofing Global Headquarters.
Yeah, it's pretty nice.
Pretty hard for you to compete with. I get it, but no. But in all seriousness, what can we do as Jilly and I to help you in all of the different things that you're involved with? Because I think it's pretty incredible. And if there's anything that we can do, or especially, I guess, speaking for myself, I would love to help.
You know, I think just we're doing it right. We're talking about it. We're getting the word out. We're getting the message out. We're sharing it. And you know, if you know, Cars for Heroes getting people to donate vehicles, getting people to go to the website, sign up for tickets, and have a good time, or going for the American Heart Association, or if they're business owners and want to get into philanthropy, reach out to me at Garen at Shamrock Roofer, and I would be happy to introduce you to Jackie at the American Heart Association, so that she can get them signed up for some Life is White campaigns.
Okay.
And
So there's sponsorship opportunities, bigger ways to get involved than just as an individual, if with either event, I'm sure.
with either event, if a company wants to come and say, hey, we want to sponsor this, and then you know, you get the logos and you get to put them on, and you know, the bottom of your contracts and everything else, and so you know, there's a lot of ways to help. Absolutely.
Fantastic. Well, let us know if there's anything that we can do to contribute.
All right. Well, I'll give you some links. Maybe you can put them at the bottom.
Yeah, there you go.
Have you done a lot of these podcasts before? I mean, you talked about talking in front of 10,000 people, but do you get? You sounds like you get asked frequently to.
So I've done several very roofing niche specific in roofing. So getting to come here and talk about everything, like all encompassing.
Yeah.
You probably got the first one to hear about everything and my journey.
Yes.
And
Thank you, Jill.
And the success and the failures of an entrepreneur and the mindset and the feeling of worthlessness and the reinventing of yourself and, you know, the eating the humble pie and the going through the all of the cycle of life, you know, as a guy or an adult or a woman, and you're supposed to be, you know, having all this stuff figured out and what's next step. And then life is just, economy in life is a roller coaster, and and really just reaching out to God for faith and confidence and going forward.
Mm-hmm.
So
I connected with so much. Obviously, you're on a whole nother level, but there's so much of your story that I connected with today. Is my own personal story. And even as of recently, and I think I shared this with you last time we were here, that I was in a kind of a funk and a struggle and just like, what is next? What am I supposed to be doing next?
That waiting time is real hard.
And I'm not a very patient person,
right?
Unfortunately.
But I just heard somebody say this, and I really liked how they said this. So I wish I had my notebook, my little journal book, but I don't have it. It was referencing a particular scripture, and I can't remember the scripture, but it was talking about the scripture says something about waiting on God. Mm-hmm. And so instead of thinking of waiting, like waiting for time, like when is it going to happen? When is it going to happen? More like waiting like a server, like
be still and know that I am the Lord, right?
Right. And waiting on him, meaning serving him. So in your time of waiting for whatever you're supposed to do next, or what I'm supposed to do next, or what you're supposed to do next, you're waiting on him going, okay, whatever you tell me to do, I'm going to do it. I'm serving. So instead of like just waiting, like, watching the clock and watching the days and watching your bank account and watching all the things, like turn it around to waiting as in serving.
Yes.
I love that.
Yes. And it exudes you, right? And it exudes, the people around you, they pick it up and they feel it. And, it was so amazing when I was going into the surgery to get this valve replaced. We have a back office meeting. There's probably about 20 people in the back office, that we do a KPI, or key performance. I call it, keep people informed. I know what's going on, but we just keep everybody apprised. And before I went in, they're like, Garen, before we let you go, we just want to say a prayer for you real quick. And to have all your team there, 20 people, that you lead, to say, hey, we want to pray over you before you go in for the surgery, Garen. And to have that kind of culture is just amazing.
That is amazing. You're very, very blessed.
Yep.
And I posted about this recently. Sorry again to make this about me, but again, it's just the connection that I get from your story. It was shortly after I was feeling all that. You may have seen where a guy who I really don't know all that well had, and would have never, ever anticipated or guessed that he would be listening to this podcast just because he saw me promote it.
Yeah.
Then goes and listens to one, and inspired to listen to another. And then he sends me this message about how it had so much impact, and he's sharing it with his family and kids and brother and blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, okay, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing right now. It was like this sense of like, okay, I don't know what's ahead of me, but right now I've got a purpose, and I'm serving, and hopefully the content and the guests and the stories that they have is giving people hope. You coming in and telling your story is giving me hope, in a very selfish way, but considering what all you've been through to be alive. But from a professional and a business standpoint, it gives me hope. And so I appreciate all your vulnerability and you coming in, taking the time to tell your story. And if there's anything we can ever do in the future to collaborate with you or help you with what you want to do, I'm all in, because you're a pretty special dude. I can see that in just the time that we've spent together. I'd go to bat for you for sure.
Well, thank you. And likewise, and I'm going to take you up on that offer.
Okay.
Because
I don't know what I can do for you, but I'll do whatever I can.
We get a lot of that, right? And it goes back to, I don't know what we can do for you, but when we get all these good people together, it's like we find it. Like we're building a Pee Wee League team. We're getting the heavier kid in front, and he's blocking. We're putting the fast kid over here. We're throwing him the ball. So we're getting everybody and everyone's talents together, and we're just making something great happen and just giving back.
Fantastic.
I love it.
All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Again, Garen Armstrong, Shamrock Roofing, online at shamrockroofer.com. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Fantastic. Jillian, thank you for making this all happen.
Absolutely.
I would have not met a new friend had it not been for you. And that's partly why I've got you involved in this thing. So for Jillian Gregg, Garen Armstrong, I'm Ronnie Phillips. That's episode 29 of the Papa Ron Podcast.
You've been listening to the Papa Ron Podcast. If you enjoyed this show, hit subscribe now and tell your friends on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, and other social platforms. To participate on the show, leave a message with your comments or questions by calling or texting 816-558-6389. That's 816-558-6389. Until next time, thanks for listening to the Papa Ron Podcast.